In this presentation, we will explain the concept of generalization as part of UML class diagrams. The concept of generalization is actually another UML association construct. It relies on the principle of inheritance, which is a fundamental concept of object-oriented programming. That concept allows a class to inherit attributes and operation from a parent class. So the concept of generalization and specialization is similar to the concept of set and subset. So let's look at an example. You can see that a checking account in a bank is a kind of account, and also a savings account is a kind of account. So both concepts, the checking account and a savings account, share a number of characteristics that can be defined as common, and so these can be generalized into the concept of account. So we have the general concept of account and two more specific concepts of checking account and savings account that inherit the characteristics of the more general concept of account. Now in UML there are two ways to write this down. There are two UML notations. So the supertype is always connected to the subtype via a line adorned with a triangle, and this triangle points to the supertype. You can merge the triangles of different subtypes into one triangle connecting all the subtypes, like on the left side, or you can keep those triangles separate, like on the right hand side. So as an example, here for our account we can have a single triangle connecting to the checking account and savings account, or we can have two triangles, one for the checking account and one for the savings account. The concept of generalization, specialization comes with constraints, and there are two types of constraints to consider. The first is whether the specialization is complete or incomplete. So the question to ask is whether the subclasses cover all the elements of the superclass. So let's consider an example where the superclass are the pet animals. So that's the general concept. And you have three subtypes or specialized concepts, namely cats, dogs and horses. The question to ask is, are there other pet animals than cats, dogs and horses? If yes, then the specialization or the subclasses are an incomplete specialization of the general concept. If there are no other pet animals than cats, dogs and horses, then the specialization is complete. If you don't specify anything, then the assumption is made that the subtypes are an incomplete specialization of the general concept. Here, this is illustrated in a more graphic way. So assume that the green set represents the pet animals and that the light orange set represents the cats, the dark orange set represents the dogs, and the red set represents the horses. The question to ask is, does there exist an object that is a pet animal without being a cat, a dog or a horse? So here we ask whether in the green area we can have objects. So objects in the green area that are not in one of the orange or red areas. If the answer to that question is no, then the specialization is complete, and it means that the dashed area, the green dashed area, is empty. There cannot be any object there. So in that case, the specialization is complete. The other constraint to consider is whether or not the subclasses are disjoint or overlapping. So the question to ask is, are there overlapping subclasses? Are there animals that can be a cat and a dog at the same time, or a cat and a horse at the same time, or a dog and a horse at the same time? If that's not the case, then your subclasses are disjoint. If it is possible that an animal is a cat and a dog at the same time, or a cat and a horse, or a dog and a horse, then you have overlapping subclasses. If you don't specify anything, then by default it is assumed that your subclasses are disjoint. So here again we illustrated this graphically. So the question to ask is, does there exist an object that is a dog and a cat, or a dog and a horse, or a cat and a horse at the same time? So if you find objects in the intersection, then you have an overlap. If this is not the case, then the specialization is disjoint. So like in this case, the dashed areas are empty, so there are no instances there, so therefore the specialization in that case would be disjoint. The way to write this down is simply by including the words that indicate the correct constraint between brackets next to the triangle. So here we see that account has a complete and disjoint specialization into checking account and savings account. It means that every account is either a checking account or a savings account, and there is no account that can be checking account and savings account at the same time. On the other hand, for courses, we see that the specialization is incomplete and overlapping. So it means that some courses are advanced courses, some courses are intermediate courses, but we also have courses that are neither of both because the specialization is incomplete. And we can also have a course that is both advanced and intermediate because the subtypes are overlapping. A special word needs to be said about reading a model with inheritance. You have to read inheritance as an OR. So, if you read it in this direction from customer to account, the way to read the diagram is as follows. A customer can have 0 to many accounts, and these accounts are either checking accounts or savings accounts because the specialization is complete and disjoint. In the other direction, from account to customer, the way to read the diagram is that each account, be it a checking account or a savings account, must have exactly one customer as an owner. So in other words, checking account and savings account inherit from account that they belong to exactly one owner. And here's another example. Reading from student to course means that a student can follow 0 to many courses and that these courses are advanced or intermediate or both or just courses because inheritance is incomplete and overlapping. In the other direction, reading from course to student, we can see that each course is followed by 0 to many students, and advanced course and intermediate course inherit from course the fact that they are followed by 0 to many students. So each course, advanced and or intermediate or just course, is followed by 0 to many students.